What is going on, fellow investors and stock market traders? My name is Jeff. I decided to make a two-part video, guys, really breaking down all the different sectors in the stock market. I want to kind of highlight their importance, and I want to tell you some of the companies that fall in these specific categories. Now, the reason I do this is really to help people with basic portfolio building. When it comes to long-term investing, that really doesn't come with a roadmap. Some of the biggest companies in the world that get the light shined on them the absolute most, sometimes they all fall into one sector, and a lot of people struggle with keeping a balanced portfolio. So when, let's say, stocks in the energy sector are dropping, you're not contributing to those positions, then later on down the road, you're trying to buy into highs, thinking that these stocks will trade maybe in the same level as the tech sector. And I have found over the years the real key is money flow focus, okay? So when this particular sector, when the best companies in this sector are dipping, that's when you want to spend more money investing into it. But that's kind of a different subject for a different day. So what we're going to do, we're going to talk about diversity. I want to tell you about what a sector is. And then in this video, I'm going to cover 6 of the 11 sectors in the stock market. And then there will be a part 2 to this video coming out shortly after this. Let's talk about diversity, guys. There are thousands of different companies in the stock market. Each stock is placed into a sector, okay? This means that each stock you invest in fits into a very specified sector. These sectors are generally representative of the overall sectors of the economy. There's basically 11 different sectors in the stock market, okay? So pretty much any stock you pick up and buy will fit into one of these categories. And the first one is energy. I trade energy stocks a lot. I probably trade energy stocks more than any other sector. And that's because I trade the price of crude oil almost every single day. And that is what the energy sector includes, is the oil, gas, coal, and fuel companies, as well as energy equipment and services. You can think of the equipment and services as the companies that build oil drilling equipment, and the services as companies that oil companies hire, okay? That's the way you can kind of think about it. It really all comes back to oil, gas, and coal, though. Some of the major players in the energy sector would be ExxonMobil, Shell, Chevron, BP. And so right there, guys, I own all 4 of those companies long term. I've owned Royal Dutch Shell for over 15 years now. Been investing in BP for about 11 years now. You got Kinder Morgan, Schlumberger, and Halliburton. So these companies generate billions of dollars of profit every quarter and have very generous dividends. Now the next sector you should familiarize yourself with in the stock market, guys, is basic materials. Now this is a sector made up of chemical, construction materials, packaging, metals, and paper companies. So this is very tangible business, okay? Unlike some things in maybe tech and financial, basic materials, you know exactly what you are investing in. These companies are usually operating in the business to business space, meaning that they sell products to other companies. For example, like the companies that cut up lumber and sell them to, let's say, Home Depot or Lowe's, that would be a basic materials company. They provide the steel for cars, the wood for homes, the plastics for packaging, and much, much more. And a couple examples of these companies, guys, first right up there on top would be BHP. That is a stock I just added to my portfolio about 2 weeks ago. Lind PLC, ticker symbol LIN, Rio, Vale, Ecolab, DuPont, Sherwin-Williams, Air Products, Dow, Newmont, Goldcorp, and the list goes on. These are just some that have the biggest market caps. And keep in mind too that gold and silver companies also fall into this sector. Some of the best performing stocks and ETFs this year, like Kirkland Lake Gold, that stock is up 138% this year. Tanzanian Gold Corporation, that is a stock I made a trade on recently, that went up 109% this year. So your gold and silver, platinum, that kind of thing, those commodity type of stocks also fall into basic materials. All right, the next sector we're going to talk about is industrials. This is one of my favorite sectors to invest in, okay? This would be your military, defense, your machinery, aerospace, airlines, construction, and manufacturing companies. And there is a lot of large cap stocks in this space, including Boeing, 3M, Honeywell, UPS, Delta, Lockheed Martin, Deere, Caterpillar, and many, many more. I own many of those stocks. And there is similarities to oil companies. They generate a lot of cash flow and have stable dividends. If the defense budgets for countries around the world are increasing, you can bet that there will be more cash flowing into these stocks. And of course, I just mentioned some of these companies a minute ago. Guys, I own many of these stocks. I'm looking at this page right here, and the only one I don't own is Union Pacific, but I probably own it in one of my ETFs that I own because I also invest in a couple of different defense ETFs. But Boeing, Honeywell, UTX, Union Pacific, Lockheed Martin, UPS, 3M, those type of companies are going to be in your industrial category. A couple others would be like Fidelity National Information, General Electric, Fiserv, ADP, Caterpillar, Northrop Grumman, and Raytheon. Now, it was announced recently that Raytheon and United Technologies are going to be merging together into one company, but Raytheon is one of the highest growing stocks in this sector, and I've held those shares since 2011, have made a really good return on that position. All right, now the next sector we're going to talk about is consumer discretionary. Guys, the easiest way I know to explain consumer discretionary stocks, this is where you and me like to go spend our money, okay? Discretionary income is devoted to the stocks in this sector. So we're talking about retailers, apparel, restaurants, automotive, hotels, media, household products. And of course, some of the companies you can't expect to see in this sector would be one of my absolute favorites. That's Amazon. And of course, Home Depot, Ford, Wynn Resort, Starbucks, Target, and Chipotle. Let's go over and take a look at some of the biggest market cap companies in this particular sector. Now from here, it might get a little bit confusing. Like I said, just don't worry about the fact that a lot of these companies do fit into multiple sector categories. Like you will see Amazon. Guys, Amazon is not just a consumer discretionary. It's also a retail company. It's also a technology company. So you will see some companies multi-listing in different sectors. Like I said, don't worry about that. Most of the time, the companies that fall into multiple categories, that tells you those companies themselves are usually great investments, okay? Sometimes I think it's very debatable whether they're great. You have to take it one company at a time. But if you see a company fall into the tech category and several different other ones, odds are that's a very good investment and stock to own. So like I mentioned, Amazon, Alibaba, Home Depot, Disney, Toyota, McDonald's, Nike. Let's drop down here towards the bottom. TJX, General Motors, Honda, Las Vegas Sands, JD.com, and Tesla. Okay, so a very mixed bag here. Some of these stocks up really big on the year. Some of these stocks down a lot, probably at a very investable level. So just keep in mind when you think consumer discretionary, I want you to think this is where we all go and spend our money on a recreational level. All right, next is consumer staples, guys. So there's a very big difference between consumer discretionary and consumer staples. I'm going to explain that, but these are food, beverage, and tobacco companies. They're also manufacturers of household goods and personal products, as well as supermarkets. So some of the companies in this category, you would find Walmart, Coca-Cola, Procter & Gamble, Costco, Kraft Heinz, Estee Lauder, and several more. We're going to go take a look at some of those companies, but the big difference between consumer staples and consumer discretionary is that consumer staples are viewed more as needs. So in the event of a recession or an economic collapse, consumer staple companies are going to hold their value a lot better than consumer discretionary companies are. And I think that pretty much holds true. If you go back to the 2008 recession, you will see some of these companies did hold their value a lot better than, let's say, Amazon or Home Depot or Nike, some of the companies we've seen on the consumer discretionary list. And so anytime I'm helping somebody set up their portfolio, I have a tendency of trying to get them to get a couple consumer staples or possibly just one really good ETF in their portfolio pretty much before they do anything, okay? Like I mentioned just a minute ago, Walmart, Procter & Gamble, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Budweiser, and Unilever. So I own all of these companies. I have traded in and out of these positions several times. Those of you that subscribe to Trade Alerts Pro know we just made a very big trade in this specific sector. And then, of course, Costco, Philip Morris, Diageo, Mondelez, Altria Group, and Ambev. So, like I said, these companies are viewed more as needs and necessities, where the consumer discretionary companies is viewed more as wants, okay? All right, so moving on to sector number 6, guys, that is healthcare. And I think it pretty much speaks for itself. These would be your pharmaceuticals, healthcare equipment, and healthcare services. The most common companies you're going to find in this sector, of course, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, Merck, Medtronic, United Health. Those are just a couple of companies in this particular sector. These bigger mega cap companies that are in the healthcare sector, usually very, very safe place because people will always need medical care. And of course, medicine is always advancing. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys. When I go through my biggest positions in all of my portfolios, this is actually the sector I'm probably weakest in. But I do own a lot of these top picks. I've tried to get them mixed in when I notice they have traded down to very investable levels like Johnson & Johnson. I just recently added Merck, and I'm currently investing in United Healthcare as it drops. Of course, a lot of that is due to some of the buzz surrounding the 2020 presidential election, okay? And of course, Pfizer, Novartis, Medtronic, Abbott Laboratories. A couple others you might see: Thermo Fisher Scientific, AbbVie, Eli Lilly, GlaxoSmithKline, and Danaher, okay? So anytime you're setting up a portfolio, guys, make sure you are trying to add some level of healthcare to the stocks and ETFs you own. Alright guys, so we covered 6 sectors in this video. Let's go ahead and take an intermission, and I will get to working on part 2 of this video, and we will cover the last 5 sectors. So feel free to go down in the comments and let me know what is your favorite sector to invest in. I'm really interested in hearing that. Part 2 will be coming very soon, so thank you as always for watching the video, and have a great day.